you wouldn't mind throwing some information, thank you very much, Kathleen. Throwing some information or putting information in the chat, where you're coming from and who you're representing, that would be helpful. Again, welcome to Stories from the River, Motivational Interviewing and Tribal Nations. Today is June 22nd, 2023. We are here gathered to talk about motivational interviewing, and this will kind of how this is a lunch and learn session. It started out as lunch and learn. Now we're moving it to a 10 o'clock a morning hour so that we can more ably fit those folks from across the country. Today's session will include an opening that we'll ask our brother Kevin Tomlin to do. Then we'll talk a little bit about MI and its use in tribal settings. We'll present MI practice skill, and then we'll have an opportunity for discussions and questions. Really at the heart of what we want to do is really just engage people around motivational interviewing and provide a space for all of us to continue learning and practice the skills. At this time, if I could lean upon some of our team maybe to jump on and introduce themselves as well too. Allison, if that's appropriate, if I could start with you and then we'll move to AJ.
Well, good morning, Bonjour, Tilmanam, Chumanam, no matter where you're coming from. I want to say thank you for joining us. I'm Allison Bays, and I serve alongside Kevin Simmons at the Native Center for Behavioral Health and with Kevin Tomlin as a part of our team for motivational interviewing. I want to say thank you all for joining us. I see a few familiar names from just last week in Riverton. So this is exciting. Thank you. I serve in the Prevention Technology Transfer Center office when we're trying to provide services in the K through 12 sector for tribal communities in the lower 48, as well as the villages up in Alaska. So I appreciate you taking time to be with us.
Thank you so much, Allison. We welcome our relatives from Wyoming and from Wind River and from wherever you are. We feel fortunate to be able to do this work here. So thank you very much for representing. AJ.
Thanks, Kevin. I'll be quick. I work for Oregon's Department of Human Services, and I have the honor of working with the 9 confederated tribes in Oregon on specific work around implementation of federal legislation, Family First, Prevention Services Act, and utilizing evidence-based practices. So we started on this journey with motivational interviewing as one of the things we're doing with Kevin Simmons, and then joined by the rest of the MI team at the center a little over a year ago. And it has been really one of the most rewarding pieces of work I've done in my career. And it's just a learning community. Every time I attend a meeting, I learn something. So I'm honored to be here, and thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, AJ, for really reinvigorating our Stories from the River and providing some administrative support and sending things out. It really has been very helpful for us, and we want to continue in this community as well too. And we know that your role here is vitally important for tribal people and ODHS here in the state of Oregon. So I am all saying thank you. Really quick, I would like to create some space here for some folks to come on and also introduce yourselves. I know that we have put some things in the chat, but in the spirit of MI, we would like to create some space here for folks. Annie or Mike or Kathleen has said that her mic is down, but if there's anybody else that would like to quickly unmute and introduce yourselves and tell us where you're from, now is the time and the space to do that. And we're perfectly fine with it being done in the chat as well too.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Hey, John. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, all right. So my name's Joanne Malamaliamu, and I'm with the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation in Pendleton, Oregon. So I did the MI training a few months ago, and we're actually at summer school right now. So I'm gonna have to have my camera off, but we have summer school going, so kids are going in and out and this and that. But yeah, so I work with our tribal education program. I'm the wraparound service coordinator. Thanks.
Welcome, John. Thank you.
Thanks.
We
All right,
appreciated our
everybody.
time.
I am, or if you're on the East Coast, good afternoon. I'm Mike Karen. I work at the Grand Ronde Tribes employment program. So that includes American Indian Vocational Rehabilitation, and then a BIA program called 477 Employment and Training. So it's good to be here. I haven't logged on to one of these stories from the river for a while, so I just wanted to touch base, come in, see how everybody's doing, and I will go back to listening. Thank you.
Well, thank you both for coming on. Looks like we have Nikki White, Cultural Service Director and Traditional Practices to Wellness Office at the Wind River Family and Community Health Care System and the Northern Arapaho Tribe. So welcome, Nikki. We have Kathleen Hill, who does not have a mic or a camera. We thank you all for being here. This is Stories from the River, motivational interviewing in tribal communities. Let me get this set up here. At the onset, I would like to quickly testify to you all that I know that motivational interviewing maintains the ability to facilitate change in our communities. And this was one of the main reasons and the guiding reasons that we have decided and we have been working towards implementing motivational interviewing within tribal child welfare units. At the onset, the implementation team was we are convinced and we are steadfast in our approach to motivational interviewing, and particularly the adaptation of motivational interviewing. We know that it maintains the ability to affect change. Really quick, it's a guiding style of communication. It's designed to empower people. It's about partnership. It's drawing out change, and it really is based on a respectful and curious way of being with our people that does facilitate a process of change. There is evidence why motivational interviewing, because there is evidence that motivational interviewing maintains some significance for walking through and with our people who are walking in substance abuse and trying to attain sobriety, that the use of motivational interviewing does help facilitate that change. There's an ability for motivational interviewing. It is a practice that is an evidence-based practice, but it does also align well with our worldviews and knowledges and practices. I note here is the spirit of MI, and also Native behavioral health practitioners have consistently utilized MI, have sought training in MI because they feel like it maintains the ability to help their practice in facilitating change and helping people who want to make a behavior change. And with that, I will turn it over to our presenter today and allow him to introduce himself once again. But today's session really is about this one particular question: does motivational interviewing align within the community setting you are working within, and why or why not? We believe it does, but we also want to hear from you. So with that, I'll turn it over to Kevin Tomlin, and we can proceed from there.
Thank you, Kevin Simmons. If I might be able to grab the screen.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep that last question in mind. How do the principles of MI align? You're gonna have to co-host me, I think.
Okay.
I'm gonna share, I just want to share something that we've all seen, which is some of the slide deck from the original training that we did, just as a refresher to get back to, thank you, to get back to what we mean when we talk. There's something really specific that we mean when we refer to the spirit of motivational interviewing. And that's this little diagram that, if you recall, there's 4 circles in there that represent these core principles that the authors have selected to represent really what the driving force is behind helping people change. And those first 3 circles, the top 3 circles, compassion, collaboration, and acceptance, those are the fundamentals of person-centered anything. Really, it was invented as counseling, but it's about approaching our clientele as human beings, that, and you see those words in green, that they have absolute worth. They're to be their experience is to be affirmed. They are the experts. And so if they share an experience with us, we want to affirm their experience. There's a call to accurate empathy, to be able to walk in their own shoes, to be able to at least attempt in a good faith way to walk in their shoes and celebrate their autonomy. And the idea behind motivational interviewing, and why we emphasize it so much, is that by engaging in those ways, their well-being first, exclusively, in a partnership, there's a we involved in it. There's 2 experts. I have my own professional expertise, and perhaps more importantly, they are the experts. They, our clients, are the experts in their own human experience. That acceptance piece, when those work together well, what arises is the 4th circle, which here is called evocation. We can call that empowerment. We could call it motivation. As the authors have indicated, and we talk about a lot in the trainings, that these are the words that the authors come up with for a very, very, very generalized audience of helpers, right? Literally all over the globe. And there's an encouragement, though, for us when we get into our communities of practice and our communities of learning, like this one, to contemplate their choice of words. And for example, in evocation, the more that I talk with learners in these trainings, I see motivation as fire. That it's literally energy, and it in a way, it needs to be tended. It has a life of its own, and that these principles that we're talking about are really the principles of making relations in a good way, like really relating with people in a way that fosters trust. And if you recall, my auntie, she wrote these slides, and there's this quote that came out in the trainings, the most recent training we did with our friends in Wind River. There was a lot of resonance with just this summary of the spirit of MI, that compassion is to have your heart and mind right for a reason, and that reason is that the trust we gain is deserved. And I heard that earlier in our preliminary conversation, even today. I had not heard that statement before, that research even research moves at the speed of trust and how core that becomes an issue, especially when we're talking about doing work at a tribal level. So that would be where I'd like to start just to start off with the group is where do you see this trust operating in your work? How much of it is aligned with what they're using, those words they're using for motivational interviewing? Let's see if we can stimulate some conversation.
You know, one of the first things that I thought about when we talk about and I read that quote, I think, oh yeah, you know, the question that I have is really what makes, you know, what is it about motivational interviewing that really does make it different? What are the mechanics of it that make it so much different? And one of the things that I thought about really is this concept of trust, but really that it's attached to a dynamic that generally service delivery is this dynamic, or counseling is this dynamic that has this innate power structure attached to it. And I think what motivational interviewing does in the spirit of MI, for, you know, from my perspective, is that it attends to that power dynamic by centering the client and what the client brings and what their own experience, and that line that we all bring our own solutions to the issues that we need to work on or change, the behaviors we need to change. There's something very trustworthy about them.
Joanne, were you gonna say something there? Can't hear you for some reason.
Can you hear me now?
There you go.
Okay, so yeah, I got to change my settings here, but I was just going to say that when I'm working with families, when I work with them, some of them could potentially, you know, if I get a referral and they are not expecting, they're not expecting a phone call from me or something, but it's just talking to them, you know, and explaining what I'm doing. You know, I'm here as a referral source, and not approaching them in a, you know, assuming, you know, I could get the referral, but I'm not going to assume this is what's happening. So it's giving them the opportunity to, like it's saying, you know, to have an open heart and an open mind without assumptions. And then that gives them, you know, what would you say, the opportunity to eventually open up, because it's that trust that you're building, you know, from day one. You know, it's kind of like, what's that saying, like first impressions, you know? So when you're talking to somebody and building that trust and compassion and showing the empathy, and, you know, like in motivational interviewing, you know, actively listening. And I'm a certified life coach. And so when I talk to them, I'm not looking for solutions for them. I'm not, I mean, yeah, I could think I have the solutions, you know, but, you know, it's asking those open-ended questions of, so who are you being at this moment when this is happening? Or if this situation was changed, what would be your ideal, you know? So just asking those open-ended questions where you're not leading them to an answer that I want to hear, but it's getting them to kind of assess on their own, what's their barriers or what's blocking them, and what could they do to remove those barriers, that type of thing. So, yeah.
Thank you, Joanne. Especially that I really appreciate that sounds like, just from your own experience, there's a nugget of wisdom in there, you know, refrain from assuming, even if it seems obvious what the reason for, say, a referral is, to come into that conversation in that first moment. It's, you know, I can resonate with that moment is really important. And one of the, I guess, skills, little tips of motivational interviewing in many different ways is to have an awareness that, yes, I am going to have an agenda. My agency has an agenda. We want them to change in a certain way, of course. And that what's the rush, especially if I'm just meeting a person, you know, it could be that maybe they are interested in making a change like that, like what my agenda is. And yet there could be something going on in their life that is more important for them to speak to. So making that space of, I'm not going to assume that we're on the same page right away. And actually, however you're able to do that, like I appreciate, you know, just the basic skill of open-ended questions, like a skillful open-ended question that kind of draws out from that. Where are you really at right now? You know, that to me is such a key moment, especially when we're meeting somebody for the first time. It's a really good point.
Yeah, and I think prior to coming to working in the position I'm in right now, I used to work for our behavior health program for our tribe, and we took a more holistic approach to that. So when I'm working with our families, and let's say we have a student who is having attendance issues, you know, it's looking beyond the attendance issues. It's like, actually, you know, if you have a circle and you're putting the child in the middle and taking that holistic approach with regards to, you know, do they have food? You know, what's going on in the relationship dynamics, maybe between parent-child or the parents, you know, that type of thing. Do they have a home? Electricity. So, you know, it's looking beyond why are they absent to what else could be happening within, you know, that family. So taking that holistic approach, which once again, you know, it's building that empathy and collaboration and, you know, that compassion. So not only are you working with, you know, a student, potentially a student, you're working with the family members. And if they have siblings, now you're working with the siblings, or if the grandparents are raising them, it's grandparents. So there's a lot of, you know, connect the dots happening.
Yeah, I mean, how empowering is, I mean, maybe that's well, it's also a good word to use along with those words they choose for the spirit of MI is just the word holistic. That we're looking at an entire person that walks through. And so like even that image that you're using of like, you know, late, immediately, my dad's an administrator. He was the disciplinarian when I was growing up. So I was like, I learned a lot of the language too. And some of that language is pretty harsh. Like it focuses on behavior and like consequences for behavior that really kind of takes the humanity away. And it's not to take away like the, you know, the spirit of education or discipline or whatever, but that there's an understanding of the person as not inherently sick necessarily. We don't necessarily need to pathologize behavior immediately. Like what's really going on? Maybe there's a way of understanding it that's a little more holistic. Seems that compassion piece comes up a lot. Yeah, a lot of overlap there.
And how you tie that into language, like as soon as you said that, Joanne, and when you were making your comments, I was listening and I thought, oh yeah, the language is so vitally important that it's a reminder for me that what a skill it is to be in the spirit of MI, because with the language, I looked at the comments that I made about allowing space for people to tell their stories, right? Even the use of the word allowing, right? Even the use of the word allowing is establishing that dynamic that says that me as a practitioner, right, I'm allowing space. But that seems, you know, while that's technical, it's also an important point. I feel like that it takes work to really get into the spirit of MI. And language is vitally important to that. Thank you, Joanne.
I appreciate you naming those skills in there again, Kevin. Represented by the acronym OARS, that it's essentially questions that are evocative, open questions, and then statements. And And it can be as simple as just a statement that reflects exactly the spirit of what we're talking about. You know, some compassionate way of communicating. I see that something may be going on. Is there anything that you want to be talking about, right? You know, it seems basic, and yet that can be very, you know, it can be challenging to stay on exactly those skills. That's why we have the OARS listed as just as a practice, even just to be able to drill through many exercises in OARS, for sure.
I'm interested in hearing from some other folks about the practice of MI in their communities. If somebody feels comfortable enough to take a healthy risk and unmute and share how they feel like MI aligns with their community and the work that they're doing.
I've recently really enjoyed it in my community because it's allowed me to take more time with my clients. So I do domestic and sexual violence prevention, which can be pretty fast paced or emergency focused or putting out fires focused, but it gives me the opportunity to ask them how their day was and how are their kids, or, you know, and you, the next time you see them, you're starting from that level already. And so it just allows me to be closer to those that I work with and help all of them versus just that one putting out the fire issue. So it's allowed me to get closer, and it's also allowed me, as I'm talking to them and kind of trying to figure out different avenues of help or support. It's allowed me to kind of stop and just like ask, tell me more. So just those kind of like very basic questions to, because they then give you additional nuggets that totally open it up. So it's a really holistic approach to care with my clients particularly. So.
Yeah, you know, it is a tool for engagement that it will extend and build relationships, which I come from a foundation, Annie, that relationship truly is the foundation of any service delivery and service in general. One of the questions that I had, Annie, and it may be completely obvious to some folks, but as I was listening, I was wondering, where are those areas in your practice or in the area that you're serving in domestic violence? Where do you see the need for change? And it may be, what is the typical change? And trying to get the question here and use different languages, but where is it that you feel like there's opportunity for the people that you serve to change?
That's up to them. It's their journey. So I'm opening it up to them leading me to figuring out, like, I'm just the like knower of resources. Like I don't actually, you know, if that makes sense. So if I have things in my pocket they don't know about, that's really why I'm connecting with them. So I don't know if that's a good answer, but
Makes sense to me. That like Kevin indicated, that it's, and what sounds like, Anne, what you're describing is what it's like, the image of cultivating, like it's planting seeds, even if it doesn't seem to be directly related to finding a solution. If there's the space to be able to connect with somebody by having a conversation that starts with, where would you like to start? You know, I have a job and my expertise is in resources. So that just, it makes total sense that it would align with MI, and that process of mapping out an agenda. I mean, we're thinking very technically. If you think of those 4 steps, right, of motivational interviewing, there's engagement first. Of course, that engagement needs to happen like you're describing. But ultimately, it's with a strategy of, if this person needs to make a change and they're really thinking about one, we're going to get it focused on one, ideally. And there could be multiple changes that they're facing. That could be part of what's bringing them in, right? The stress of feeling overwhelmed about having multiple things that they're ambivalent about. So just to have that place of warming it up and getting connected is legitimately part of the job. I guess that's what I hear you saying, and I really appreciate that it's not just being nice, that it's deeper than that. That this is part of the from a motivational interviewing point of view, this is the essence of the work, is to make that connection or facilitate that connection. And that if it sounds like you're very aware of your expertise, that once you get to a place of focus where that person is ready to take steps, then resources are going to be there. That's not an issue. It's really more helping them navigate and determine, which resources do I even need to access. Sounds like it could be really overwhelming at times. And that's really a place that focusing, that agenda mapping, is something that will naturally occur just out of a process of connecting with people. So I just really appreciate you naming that.
It also made me think of something here. Can I share my screen real quick, and then can I share this document that I have been?
Yeah.
Okay. This is from Camilla Benner's work.
Yeah.
Right. And I found this, and I really like this document. I was trying to find a way to incorporate this, but this really does kind of lean at this, you know what I mean? This is just provides a good foundation of the MI way versus the non-MI way. And I think that, what brought this up is Annie really having this discussion and really kind of talking about when she said, well, it's up to the client. And I love that. And so I feel like this graphic right here, or this table details that the MI way being person-centered, the non-MI way being non-person centered.
Yeah, can you zoom in on that a little bit, Kevin?
Yeah. I don't necessarily know how to zoom in here.
Oh.
Sorry, Alice.
Oh, there's the bottom right. You got a little magnifying glass all the way over.
Sorry. Here.
My eyes are getting older too.
That's not the trick here. There you go. Allison's giving me directions with no voice.
Sorry. The
No,
magnifying
it's okay.
glass, the one
It's
right above that. There,
we
there you go.
Yes, there we go. So this
This is
table
from
really-
Camilla's manual.
Yeah, this is from the manual that was developed a few years ago.
Yeah. That's great.
So am I being in partnership, drawing out that evocation and empowerment piece, as well as identifying independent choice, whereas the non-MI way really as a counseling perspective is confrontational. Kevin, I think about the conversations we had about your theory, your counseling, and your early
Right.
learnings around your theoretical underpinnings for counseling. I think about the confrontation piece. The surprising part for me was really the education part. Is this piece right here? The counselor believes that the client does not have important information, insight, and or skills that are necessary for change. The counselor seeks to fill these roles by providing necessary information. that one, I have to think about, like, I'm challenged by that.
I mean, it makes so much of a difference. And yet I totally recognize that non-MI way, especially around education. Like if I go into my own profession where I'm delivering a group, say, and I'll just walk in with a curriculum. And how often do I see myself and others will just jump into it without actually checking in? That it's a huge difference of being just like a deliverer of information versus a collaborative conversation where, yes, I might have some nuggets that'll work or that might fill in blanks, but how do I even know which ones to use unless I know who is it with whom I'm walking?
Yeah. I've been thinking about that piece since I came across this about education. Right.
The collaborative piece really emerges to the fore.
Yeah. So how about some other folks? How is motivational interviewing? How is it aligning with the work that you're doing in the communities that you're coming from? Or we can share, how are you doing with, your own practice of motivational interviewing?
Yeah.
Also knowing and understanding there's no right or wrong answers in this particular setting, right? I can tell you from my perspective here that, from my experience, the motivational interviewing is difficult for me to carve out places where I can practice. And so whenever we go into trainings, one of the things that I try to do is practice as much as possible, but the practice piece is vitally important. And finding space to practice.
When you say practice, do you have particular moves in mind, things to practice?
And I think the first piece is really around, just being able to be in an environment where I can, the spirit of MI, really interacting with people from that particular perspective of, client-centered. I think the first piece is really listening.
Yeah.
Listening is one of the hardest skills for me. I have to be conscious.
And that's where one of the co-founders wrote a new book last year or two called Listening Well. And I really find that little book, you got it right there, that little book, that even the title is a nice, there it is. Oh, I can even see it, Listening Well. That it's a nice way for me to check in with, because what you're describing, Kevin, seems to me to be a core MI skill. Can I they call it the heart set, not just the mindset, but my whole insides. Can they be oriented toward that other person in that deliberate way that's in the spirit of MI? That's a conscious activity. It could be that fast. It's nothing complicated. And yet, how often do I walk into encounters not remembering to do that? That can be a conscious decision before I walk through a door. What would it take for me to get my heart set on listening well? And that is what I really appreciate you naming that over and above the other, like, more measurable technicals, like open-ended questions, affirmations, reflections, summaries. Those are all great, and they're great ways to like tick off boxes to indicate if I am in the spirit of MI or not. And there's just this question I can ask myself: am I ready to listen well? You know, am I ready to be focused on this person's well-being? Where I can think of asking Annie's question. Where is it that you would like us to go today? Instead of walking in with my own agenda. So that's a really, it's kind of an invisible skill of MI, of just getting my own insides aligned in a way where I can engage people in a way that motivates. It's a really good point.
I would like to, I would like to find out from, I don't want to put Mike on the spot, but I want to put Mike on the spot, because I feel like, you know, what the early work that Mike and his team were doing around motivational interviewing from a employment and vocational perspective. I would love to be able to hear some of that work and how that's going. So if you're willing to share, Brother Heron, I sure would love to hear it.
Let me take it off mute here. And so yeah, we had people on staff who've been interested in really studying motivational interviewing even prior to bringing it out to Grand Ron for that kind of official week or so that we had those trainings. And it's so in the employment arena, you have various categories of individual and where they're at in their own life's journey, where they're at in their career goals. And so not everybody comes in with ambivalence around, you know, what kind of career choice do I have? Some people literally just come in and say, hey, I've already found a job. I need some tools to be successful in that employment. And really those are cut and dry, not necessarily, although there can be an opportunity for MI in a situation like that, but it's really just service driven. And then there is individuals that come in and say, you know what, I know I need a job, not sure where I want to work. I just got things going on in my life, and I'm trying to better my circumstances. And that is a perfect opportunity to then kind of put on that MI hat and say, you know, and really do that deep dive and create that partnership and really see where they're at and how to, I guess, assist in some way, whatever their choices are. So our staff had actually, we began practicing MI at our weekly staff meetings. So we would literally go through just like you would in a classroom. One person would play the mock client, and usually, and I forget the word you guys used for it. Although it was a scenario, it was close to the truth. Maybe something that they're experiencing in their life, and then the other individual so the other individual would play the counselor role. And we literally would do that weekly, and staff really seemed to respond well to that kind of model where you're actually practicing on a weekly basis, because it is a skill, and I'll be candid, it's a skill that if you don't use it, you lose it. It's real easy to fall back into that, you know, just service driven, box filling. Okay, this is what we do, this is what we got to offer, get on board with it, you know. And it's really easy to fall back into that. Yeah. So I found that the more the practice went on, the more it seemed natural to the providers to to implement MI when it was useful. So, and then just the response from the consumers that are coming in and utilizing the program are, you could almost sense relief when they don't get hit with them box type questions when they come in.
Yeah.
You know, when they get hit with an open-ended, what would you like? Where would you like to see today go? And they're like, because they're so flabbergasted or they're caught off guard that somebody's actually listening, because they're used to coming in to systems. And you know, I'll be candid, a lot of people have systems trauma, coming into systems and just being told X, Y, and Z is what you need to do. Here, let's do a plan. Let's move forward. And so it was palpable. You could feel the change and almost their shoulders relax when they were hit with an open-ended question right from the gate. So I don't know if that's what you were looking for, but that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, that was great, Mike. Thank you. Kevin, do you have something you want to add here?
Oh, just appreciation. That, I mean, you said real quick in there, trauma, that it's systemic trauma, that even regardless of what the title of the services that we're providing, it so often goes back to some core stuff. This is me, the therapist, talking. So that's like, especially the more that I talk with service providers across the board, it's like all of this work is therapeutic. When approaching it from a person-centered way, something as simple as, what would you like to do? I mean, it flabbergasts people. So I just appreciate that, you know, even something as simple as practicing it, doing the real plays as opposed to the role plays, just do it once a week. Everything you just said, you know, I'm the choir. You're preaching to the choir. So I appreciate all of that.
I would like to create some space here for folks, you know, from Wyoming or anywhere else. If you have some reflections about how the training was, how it was, you know, how you received the training in Wyoming, what do you think of motivational interviewing?
If it's okay, I'll go ahead and take a healthy risk. Sorry that I'm not turning my camera on. I don't want you to see my messy office. It's pretty messy over here. So I just wanted to say thank you to the trainers, Kevin and is it Allison? Am I saying that right? Yeah. I attended the training with 2 elders that I recruited to come in.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, to go over the SBIRT and the motivational interviewing. And then we held a focus group afterwards to talk about how this framework could, you know, fit within our community. I spoke briefly with Allison and talked about, you know, the situation that our community is facing right now regarding just increased substance use, and just, you know, our community is facing a lot of chronic illness and disease and early death, and you know, we've got a lot going on. As the Culture Services Director of the Traditional Practices to Wellness Office, over the years, and I'm sorry about my phone, I should have turned that off before I decided to go on unmute. Over the years, I partnered with our traditional elders and I brought them in, you know, with a focus on trying to increase social connectedness and cultural connectedness with families and community people, in an effort to increase resiliency against these, you know, hardships that we face as a people, through a like trauma-informed lens. We do it, looking at not only current trauma, but historical trauma. And I have to tell you that I have no background in motivational interviewing. So that whole week that we went through the training was all learning for me. And I really enjoyed that opportunity. And thank you again. One of the things that, just a reflection of that training is, in my work partnering with the elders of our community has the spirit of MI like intuitively built into it. Doing the elder home visitation and, doing the work of, I don't know how to say this right, but like breaking down barriers, because we have so many, our elders are not, elevated socially as they once were. There's in the past, our elders were very respected, and we went to them for wisdom and knowledge and learning and things like that. And over the years, as things have become more modern, we just have seen less and less of that. And so when I've gone to partner with elders, that spirit of the MI, seeing the training and seeing it broken down, it was like, whoa, I kind of am doing this, creating that space so that our elders can have that safety to be able to talk about, their experiences. And many of our elders are, products of the boarding school era. And so, there is these, it's a hardship for them to, feel safe in sharing traditional knowledge. And so those processes that are inherent to us as a people of, how the generations share that traditional knowledge and wisdom has really been interrupted by addictions, grief, loss, sorrow, all of the barriers that we face as a community. So anyway, trying to wrap it up, I don't mean to be so lengthy, sorry. But in our focus group, our elders talk about how some of the younger generations do come to them. And they say, when you come to see it, when they come to see them, that there's just something about their house, like something about it is just safe. And they talk about, their practices in how they listen to the youngers, because they usually come in a place of feeling lost, and so they speak with our elders. And so my interest in motivational interviewing is sort of looking at maybe an integrated approach, with our elders, so that when they are connecting with our younger people who want to know who they are, they want to know their Arapaho identity, and they want to start that learning journey, that our elders can have maybe an integrated practice. That's just my reflections for today. Sorry, but I feel a little nervous being in a forum with so many experts. But thank you again for the learning opportunities. And I apologize for being so silent. I'm really just trying to absorb and learn and think. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Nikki. I just follow up really quick on what you were saying, is that one of those elders came up to me after the third day of training to express appreciation and basically to say what you just said, that there's a reflection on some very traditional values that seem to be represented in like a modern approach like motivational interviewing. So that was really the highlight of my experience last week, was getting to talk to that elder. So I appreciate you saying so.
We are running out of time. We have gone over time. Nikki, you are in a safe space. Thank you so much for sharing. I could see AJ and almost could feel AJ shifting in her seat, and all of us, when you really begin to talk about the elders as we've gone around the communities, there has been that theme around, elders, but also key is, oh, I'm already doing this. I can't, we have told how many times have we been on the road and we've had this conversation around, oh, our community's already doing this, but now we're just putting a name on it. So thank you very much. Always feel free. We're take you however you are. Thank you for sharing. That means the most to us.
Here, here.
So with that said, we're 1:06. We got some people hopping off. We will close down this session. We'll meet again July 6th. We're hoping to get some tribal communities to actually jump on and present with us and talk about motivational interviewing in their communities. We'll keep everyone abreast, and we'll send out some information and keep everyone connected and follow up. So with that, we appreciate everyone and all your thoughts and your knowledge. And thank you very much for providing a place for us to share and joining us on this ride.
Thanks, everyone.
Anybody else? Kevin?
Thank you. No, just thank you. Appreciate everybody, and hopefully come back in a couple of weeks. Keep the conversation going.
AJ, do you have anything?
No, thank you, everybody, for coming. Really appreciated the conversation.
Okay, with that all, we will be signing off, and we appreciate everyone.
Lamia, thank you.